So I'm going to create a image trace of this image. So I'm just going to place this image into my Illustrator file. So this is Illustrator. This is a drawing that I created with Conte and charcoal and some ink, pen and ink. And I'm going to click on image trace, and Illustrator is going to tell me that it's going to take a little bit of time to do the image trace because of the size of the image, and I don't want to reduce the pixels per inch. It's 212 right now, so I'm just going to leave it. I'm just going to say OK and let Illustrator image trace this. So it's image tracing to a default black and white trace, which you can see it has done a pretty good job of. There are some areas that might have some leakage here, so I didn't close up all of the areas with black lines. So what has happened is my image trace, I need to expand it in order to see what I can do with this image trace. So right now I'm going to add a color fill to some of this image, and this is what I have for the negative space, the white space. Right, and here is the negative space in some of the other areas. I'm just going to press Shift to select some of the other areas, and I'll just drag those over here, and I'll recolor those same color so you can see what's going on. So an image trace can be a really good, or be used as a really good mask for stuff to happen behind another object. So here are all of the black lines, right? So here are the black lines. That's one object that was image traced by Illustrator. All of the rest of this residue are the extras, like his eye, anything that's not connected together. So if I press Command Z, I'm going to pop that line drawing back into place. So you can see that there are a lot of the black lines, and if I recolor these, you'll be able to see exactly what's going on here. Command Z, we've got white areas. Because Illustrator has traced both black and white, we've got this negative space that was inside all of the black lines of my drawing. So these guys belong over here, recolored to be the same color, so you can see that's what's left over. So we've also got the whites of his eyes in here and a little bit of more fragmented stuff inside. So the black areas can be like the line drawing that you bring into After Effects. So if I were to Command X the rest of that image trace out right now and just concentrate on this area, this is just the black lines, right? These are just the black lines, or almost only the black lines. If I were to go to File, Save As, and save this as Guy 1, and I'm going to save this to the desktop, and I'm going to create a new folder for it. This is going to be my After Effects folder. So I've got the black lines, and those are going to be saved as an Illustrator CC, an AI file. And now I'm going to bring back the negative space that existed around these black lines. I'm just gonna actually do it this way because I can fit this in quite easily. Delete that, Command paste in the negative space, kind of reposition it pretty much where I got it from. And now this is going to work as what Jessy and I were talking about as a mask. So if I select everything here and I make the mask white, it appears as though there's nothing in my Illustrator file, but that's wrong. If I create another shape, and I'm just going to add a gradient to this object. So I'm going to add a gradient fill and just drag in from the swatches panel here. I'm going to drag in some swatches to kind of emulate what you were creating for your background. It's not quite this crazy. It's kind of a psychedelic background. It was kind of what you were dealing with. It was that purple psychedelic sky. In any case, if this object, if I press Shift, Command, and bracket, it's going to sit behind that white object. So that is, in this case, that all of these white negative space, these negative shapes, the stuff that is that was around all of the black lines of my drawing, that white space can work as a mask. So that is in essence what you were trying to do, was make the top shape, you were trying to make it a mask. So what if we were trying to make the white shape a mask and have the lines be see-through, and this negative space, the fill of that I guess that psychedelic gradient in the background. So I'm going to move this guy over for a second, and I'm going to select all of the shapes that are white. I'm going to go to Object, Compound Path, Make. So what that has done, and I'll open up that Layers panel, and we will find it right here. So what that has done was turn all of the shapes that were the negative space around the black lines, it has turned them into one object, one compound path. And I just want to kind of just grab this other thing. I'm just going to delete it so that you'll only see the two objects here. So we've got this compound path, which is that negative space, all those little things that are white, and I'm going to slide that rectangle that has that psychedelic color, I'm going to slide it behind. I just want to make sure that you're seeing all of the cool colors from the cerulean blue all the way to the orange. So I've slid the rectangle behind the compound path, and I'm selecting both. I'm going to Object, Clipping Mask, Make. And now, yes, the top shot is very complex, blah, blah, blah. So what we've got here is the compound path is clipping out the other object. So we're not using, and I'll bring this guy back in. Let's see if I can do this. Yeah, that's not that one. We'd have to go back in time. The black lines, we've already saved that as an AI. Now I can save this rectangle that has the knockout. So what's going on here, just so you can see what's going on, I'm going to put another shape, and I'm pressing Shift, Command, bracket. So I'm putting that shape, and I'll make it black, putting it behind the object, so you can see that as I'm moving it, you can see that it's filling in where the knockouts are, so the holes are. So I know what you were trying to do. You were trying to do for your animation, you were taking what was like this psychedelic kind of a sky, and I'm just gonna rotate this guy so you can really see the colors. What you were doing was you were taking a line drawing and you were image tracing it, and you were wanting one kind of psychedelic background to fill in the holes for your drawing, and then the one on the top, you were wanting to use that on just the negative space around it. So in essence, that's what I'm doing here. If I brought both of these into After Effects, so we'll put this guy aside, we don't need this one. If I bring this into After Effects, File, Save As, I'm going to save this as Guy1 Mask, M-A-S-K. That's an AI file. This is the black lined drawing. This is Guy1 the mask, and I can call it like Rainbow Mask. Okay, and I'm saying, yes, I'd like it to be compatible with just CC. Say OK. And now for the background, I'm going to press Command Z a couple times, just once here. So eliminate that, bring this guy in up to the top. And now if this was the other illustration that I created for the fills, I could save this one too. So save as, and this will be just the rainbow. Say OK. And now I'll just open up After Effects. So now I am in After Effects, and I'm going to bring into my project window the files that I've just created in Illustrator. So I'm double clicking in the project window, and it should open up a dialog box that allows me to navigate to the folder that I've saved my images in, and those are the ones that I'll be working with in a new composition. So I'm going to import from my desktop. And I'm going to go to the After Effects folder, open that guy up. And I'm going to open up, pressing Shift, all 3 files. And so now those will be available to me in After Effects. So each one is brought in as an Illustrator file. So each one has transparency that has been packaged into the file. So I'm going to create a new comp, and I'm going to leave the HDV 1080 29.9 frames per second. I'll just change that background color. I'll change it to black, and I'm going to say OK. Say OK, and I've got my comp ready for my files to come in. So I'm going to bring them in one at a time so you can see what they are. So here we have the rainbow background. I have my mask. So this is going to be on top. Just make sure that comes in the right spot. So here is my file. So I'll Command minus out. And I'm not quite sure why the file came in as at a different size, but you can ensure that when you are creating your Illustrator file and you're creating your comp, you make sure that the numbers are the same, so then you won't run into the same problem that I had. So make your width, if your After Effects settings are 1440 pixels by 1080 pixels, make your Illustrator file that size, and then you won't have a problem with your file. But here we have my top object, and you can see that there's a hole or holes where the drawing is. So this is in essence what you were trying to accomplish with that file. Oops, sorry about that. He just decided he was going to fly apart. Okay, so I think what you're trying to do is is there anything else here? I think the only thing that we have here is these black lines. Yeah, that's the black lines. Those are the black lines. So that's something else altogether, just to show you that the line drawing has no background at all. So, and let's see. So if nothing is moving in the comp, we've got nothing happening in the comp. If I decide to lock that first layer and turn the eyeball off, the eyeball is off. If I decide to transform the layer that's on the top, and here we are with position, scale, rotation, and opacity. If I decide I wanted to change the position, bring playhead to the beginning, put in that keyframe, move my playhead forward, and then move the either top object or the object below. So you can see if I move the object below, we've got now the animation with that top object moving. If my rainbow colored background if I wanted that to be extended and maybe made as large as the comp itself. Now we've got the object moving. Okay, so you can see possibly not as clearly as if I were to rotate this. So if I rotate this file, now we've got the angle of that gradient a little different. So now you'll be able to see movement a little more. Hopefully you can see that. So it just depends on, and I'll zoom in a little bit. So the trick here is to create your mask file, and I'll turn this one behind it off. This one needs to be quite large if it's going to move, or even if it's going to fill up the whole screen. So we'd have to either make the composition the size of the art or the art the size of the composition. So as I was saying, we'll show you the example here. This is the art, that's the size of the comp. So if this is going to move back and forth, it needs to be a lot larger. So you can see that the color is now moving around. If this image is going to be stable, this is going to be the, this is the object that I'm moving, like right here. If this was larger and it filled up the screen, so let's say that is what we were seeing on the screen, and we've got this object that's behind it. Rotate it. That might be better here. And now zoom in slightly. So I've got the rainbow background. If the rainbow background moves, the lines are filled up with another color, or sorry, with the colors other than the colors in the foreground. Hopefully that makes sense. I know when we were doing it together in the class, it made sense to you with your images. So I'm just trying to kind of remake what you're doing. So I hope that makes sense. So I'll just show you again what's on the screen, or what's in the comp. I'll just get rid of this one. So we've got an image that was created in Illustrator, or a vector image trace that was created in Illustrator. I image traced a line drawing. I took all of the black lines and I deleted them. Everything else, all of the negative space, I turned into a compound path. Then I used that compound path as a mask on a rectangle that had a gradient on it. I saved that file as Guy1 mask rainbow. The file that is being masked out is the file that looks like just a regular gradient. So I'm trying to kind of visualize the image that you created for the background, which is that, I guess you had a lavender sort of cosmic sky. So I hope this makes sense. The other file that I did bring in is the line drawing. So I'm just going to drag that in again. So the image trace that was created, this is the one that you would probably normally use, and I'll zoom in so you can really see this thing. This was the image trace, and this was the black lines, but also the white areas that are in between some of the parts. So when you create a line drawing, you are creating all of the shapes that the white space is going to be filled with, right? So it's the width of the paper, it's the negative space that's behind or beside the black lines, and every space that's inside. It's almost like a coloring book, and everything is colored white except for the black lines. And if you don't recolor these or select them and color them in Illustrator, they're going to stay white. So when you have them sitting on a white background, you'll not see them. But if you have them on any other kind of a background, like this checkerboard, the checkerboard is saying that this background is invisible, except for the white fills here. So I hope that this has helped you in some way with understanding masking and understanding the files that you need to create to accomplish what you wanted to do with Illustrator and with After Effects.